afternoon, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Now, you guys keep on asking me for more and more of these videos, and, well, I'm here to make you guys happy. Ask and you shall receive. So today, we have some more reviews. We're going to take a look at everything I've recently watched, and I'll give you guys my very quick and brief thoughts, starting with Spider-Man Homecoming, which I've actually already reviewed for you guys. Talked about this one right after I saw it in the theaters, and just like I said before, it was fantastic, which is why I'm already watching it for a second time. This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movie, which I think we can all say is the Spider-Man movie we have been waiting for. Now, I like the other 5 movies. Well, okay, 3 wasn't all that great, but the other 5 movies, to an extent, were pretty good. I enjoyed them. They were fun, but they didn't have that Marvel Cinematic Universe feel. This is what we're getting. We're getting that great Marvel Cinematic Universe feel with this movie, and I love it, and I cannot wait to see where they go with this great story. I have a feeling we're going to get some more amazing Spider-Man, standalone Spider-Man movies, and then seeing him, like, tying in with the actual cinematic universe and the Avengers just sounds amazing, and I have no doubt this character will quickly become one of my favorite characters within the actual universe itself. I cannot, again, wait to see where they continue this story. I also really liked that they left out the whole origin story with this, which I think is fantastic because, let's face it, how many times do we need to see the Spider-Man origin story? We've seen it a million times. We know what it is, and I think Marvel was bright enough to say, okay, we all know the story. Do we really need yet another origin story of Spider-Man? No, we know the character. Let's just assume everybody knows his backstory, and let's just roll from there. And I think that was a really good idea because had this been yet another origin story, I probably would have been bored with this film because, again, I just don't need to see it for a third or really a millionth time. I've seen it so many times in cartoon form and in live action form and in comic book form. I don't need to see it again, and I think Marvel knew that, so that was fantastic. A really good, in my opinion, idea when it came to this movie, just to leave that out and just jump right in to a fantastic Spider-Man movie, which is what they did. So this was fantastic. I loved it. I enjoyed it. If you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and you have not seen this one yet, why not? Check it out. Again, fantastic. Has some great humor in it. I love the addition of Iron Man. A lot of people, I remember when this was coming out, was like, what? Spider-Man can't get his own movie? They got to throw all this Iron Man in? To be honest, Iron Man is just there to kind of tie Spider-Man into the universe, into like the Avengers story. He's not actually in the movie all that much. He pops up here and there, and in my opinion also, his character really makes sense in this. They did not put him in this movie a lot. Again, he pops in here and there, and the parts where he does pop in, it makes sense. It's parts of the story where Spider-Man might need him to come in, or Tony Stark might need to chime in with something. It really does make sense, and I think they used him to just the right amount that it did not make this an Iron Man / Spider-Man movie. It was just a standalone Spider-Man movie where Iron Man pops up here and there for, in my opinion, good reason. So, again, fantastic. I loved it. I cannot praise this movie enough, and I cannot wait for the second Spider-Man movie. I have no doubt it'll be fantastic, and I cannot wait to see, again, where they go with the story. So next I checked out CM Punk Best in the World. Now, as you guys know, I'm not some big wrestling guy. I said it before about 1,000 times, sorry to reiterate, but wrestling for me, I was really into it in like the late 80s. I used to watch wrestling a lot with my dad when I was a little kid, so it's very nostalgic for me, at least like late 80s wrestling. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake, Honky Tonk Man, that whole genre of wrestling or time period of wrestling is my thing. So CM Punk, I knew nothing about this guy. I knew he existed, and that was really about it. I did not know his backstory, but I've been having a real fun time watching documentaries on more modern-day wrestlers. Now, a lot of you guys, when I picked this one up, said, yes, you're going to love it, it's fantastic, and even when I said I was watching this, I got a lot of comments from you guys saying that it's fantastic, it's amazing, again, you're going to love it. I liked it. I thought it was great, but for me, I don't know, something about stories with a lot of heartache and a lot of like down moments, a lot of really bad things happening to a person appeals to me more, which, you know, it sounds horrible, but, you know, there's a lot more character development and kind of, you know, in the story. This wasn't bad. It's just, you know, it seemed like, you know, he kind of came up from an upbringing that wasn't great, but it wasn't bad necessarily either. It sounds like he didn't have like the best childhood, but it could have certainly been worse. And things, you know, progressed when he got into wrestling. And I'd say the main issue he seemed to have is they never really seemed to know what to do with CM Punk. Like it just seemed like they were like, okay, this guy's great, he's amazing, but do we really want him to wrestle for the WWE? I don't know, maybe. And then once he got into the WWE, they were like, well, what do we do with him now? So I felt really bad for the guy in the sense that he seemed to be a great wrestler who people really liked and admired and enjoyed, but Vince McMahon and the WWE just never seemed to really know what to do with him and never really gave him his dues. Kind of what's his name? I was going to say that wrong. Benedict Arnold of wrestling, in a way. You know, it's just a guy who just kind of got stepped on over and over and over again. So great documentary. I loved it. I just wouldn't say it was one of my favorite WWE documentaries. There are other documentaries I will probably watch over and over again. This one here, will I watch it again? I don't know, maybe. It was decent. It just wasn't one of my favorites. But still great. Very interesting to learn about CM Punk as somebody who was very much in the punk scene and very into punk music. Very cool to see him being friends with people like Lars Fredrickson from Rancid. That's really cool. Just to see that he is really big into punk music, and the fact that he's actually straight edge, which is something, I mean, I guess you could say I am. I don't really call myself straight edge anymore. When I was in high school, I certainly did. But I don't do drugs or anything like that. I don't smoke. I don't do any other drugs. I've never even drank alcohol before in my entire life. It's just a way I choose to live. And CM Punk is the same. I think that's really, really cool. Although, once again, it kind of drives me nuts. I get it's his character. I understand that, but and again, I know he doesn't necessarily think this way, but his whole character of I'm straight edge, so I'm better than you, and then him kind of turning straight edge into like a cult. I sort of think that might have put like a bad spin on something as positive as being straight edge, as positive as being drug free. In my opinion, I was watching it thinking this kind of makes it look a little bad. Like it makes the lifestyle of the straight edge look kind of bad, which isn't good. I don't know, you're putting a spin on it that I just think shouldn't be really put on it. And again, I understand it was all done just for his character and done just for show. It's not that he actually thought that, or actually it's something that he really meant, but people don't necessarily know that. The world doesn't really know what straight edge is, and when they see him turning it into like a cult and turning it into like, oh, I'm better than you and stuff like that, then it kind of maybe puts a bad light on the lifestyle. So that kind of bothered me. And of course, every time he was like, I'm CM Punk, I'm straight edge, it sounded like people I knew from high school. So, I don't know. Anyway, CM Punk, interesting documentary. I would recommend it if you're a fan of WWE documentaries. I'm certainly not trying to put the guy down or put the documentary down. It was great. I loved it. Very interesting to learn about him. I did feel kind of bad for him, that the fact that he seemed to know what he was doing. He seemed to be a great wrestler, but just never really got his dues, and that was a shame. But anyway, very good documentary. Not one of my favorites, but still a great watch. And again, I would recommend it. Next up is War for the Planet of the Apes, and oh my gosh, was this fantastic. Now, when this movie came out, I was like, all right, a third Planet of the Apes movie. Can they continue the awesomeness that is the Planet of the Apes films? The first two movies were great. I loved them. I thought they were fantastic, and I was a little nervous that a third movie could start to bring the series down a bit, and no, this was just as fantastic. Now, I will say the other two seem to be really telling a story of the rising of the apes and whatnot. This almost felt a bit more like a standalone kind of movie where they were sort of done telling the main story, and this was sort of its own kind of side story, if you sort of will. Now, don't get me wrong, it was about this battle and this war, I guess, but I don't want to spoil the movie too much, but it's not necessarily like an all-out war on the apes per se. It's more just kind of some apes versus another group of people. Again, it just kind of felt like its own sort of standalone movie and not necessarily a progression in the story itself, if that makes any sense. But at the same time, it kind of was, because they would mention things throughout the movie that showed you that things leading up to the Planet of the Apes movies, like why in the Planet of the Apes film, why the humans can no longer talk. They explain that. So I like that. So at the same time, it did progress the story. It did explain things a bit more, and it did kind of lead you into the actual Planet of the Apes movie, which is great. But at the same time, it just felt more of like a standalone sort of story that explains some things leading up to Planet of the Apes, as opposed to the first two movies that felt like movies that were just like telling the actual full story of what's about to come, if that makes any sense. But still, fantastic, very well done. Loved everybody in this movie, and I would highly recommend it. If you like the first two, you're gonna love the third one. It's definitely something to check out. Then a movie that you should not check out, Rough Night. Oh boy, was this garbage? That's the word I'll use. Now, I went into this thinking maybe it's going to be pretty good. I'm a big fan of Very Bad Things, which is a really good movie. If you've never seen, Very Bad Things, that's what I said, Very Bad Things. Great movie. I would highly recommend it. It's a very good dark comedy, and I had heard a lot of people saying that this was kind of the girls' version of that film, and I understand why. It does share a lot of similarities, but I would say it's kind of a different film also. Very Bad Things, again, is fantastic. Again, a really good dark comedy. I love the characters. I love the situation they get themselves into. It's great. This, they get themselves into a very similar situation. The big difference is every character in this movie I want to punch in the face. I was so annoyed by every character. I thought Scarlett Johansson even was like garbage in this. I just did not like anybody. I could not relate to or get behind or get into or even care remotely about any character in this movie because they just annoyed me. It was kind of like your typical modern day comedy, but somehow they managed to make the girls so stereotypical and so overdone and so boring and so, I've seen this 1,000 times before, that they did such a good job at that there was nothing interesting or exciting about any of the characters. The story kind of went, I don't know, kind of went nowhere to an extent. At no point was I like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? What danger are all these characters getting themselves into? It seemed ridiculous, especially the fact that they could have solved the situation like in a heartbeat right from the beginning. But they do stupid things to get themselves into more trouble, to dig themselves a little deeper, which could have been funny. It's just the fact that it just seemed like the characters were idiots as opposed to, oh, we screwed something up and now we're in trouble. It just seemed like they were just morons, basically. So, I hated this movie. I gotta be honest. I did not like it. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the way the story was told. I didn't like the progression of it. It wasn't funny. It wasn't enjoyable. Again, it kind of went nowhere, even though the movie, was telling a story, and I do see where, began and where it ended. I just don't feel like it went anywhere, like somehow. I don't know how they did that, but they pulled that off. So I'm gonna say stay away from this one. It just wasn't enjoyable. Bleh. Okay, so then I checked out Trolls. Now this is one I've been meaning to watch for a while now, but just hadn't got around to it. And this movie, as far as the story was concerned, was great. I really loved it. I'm a big fan of CGI animated movies. It takes a lot for me to dislike one. And again, as far as the story is concerned, I loved it. My issue is, and I kind of hate when they do this with movies, like things like Happy Feet or like this, when they throw in modern day music into, a very musical movie. And this movie is all about the trolls, and they sing a lot. They're all happy and happy-go-lucky trolls, basically, and they're always singing and carrying on and throwing parties and whatnot. It's just when they're singing modern day pop songs. And it's like, it really just takes me out of the story. Why would the Trolls know modern day pop songs? Like, first of all, this doesn't even take place in the modern day world. I mean, okay, let's say this movie did take place like in Central Park, modern day Central Park, New York or something like that. And these Trolls knew modern day pop songs. Maybe I could get behind it then. Okay, fine. But this is like Trolls in this fantasy world and whatnot, and you know, they're singing all these pop songs, and it ruins the movie. It takes me out of the movie every time they break into a song. Had they actually done songs written for the movie, in fact, I do think there is one song when the one troll kind of like goes off. There is that scene, and I do believe that, if I'm not mistaken, that is a song that actually written for the movie, and I like that song, or at the very least, it really fits in that scene. So I like that, but every time else she or he or whoever busts into some like modern day pop song, I'm like, no, like you're taking me out of this whole story by doing that. But otherwise, good story. And one of the main reasons I would say watch this, if you're a fan of CGI animated movies, is for the actual animation. This is some of the most beautiful animation I've seen in a CGI animated film in a long, long time. It looked amazing. I could not stop staring at the screen because I just wanted to see every little detail of every background and every character and every scene. It was really, really well done. So a lot of time and effort put into the animation, and for that reason alone, see this. Even if you don't think you'll like this movie, again, if you're just a fan of animation in general, check it out, because the animation is beautiful. Again, the story was really good. I actually really did enjoy the story. It's just those pop songs. Had they taken those pop songs out of the movie, it would have made this, like, so much better. But all in all, it's still pretty decent, and I would say check it out if you are a fan of CGI animated movies, and if you're a fan of just animated movies in general. Again, the animation was just amazing. So next up is Hector and the Search for Happiness. Big fan of Simon Pegg, so I really wanted to see this. And it was okay. It's one of those movies about a guy finding himself. Simon Pegg is a psychiatrist, or what, psychiatrist or psychologist? I always forget which one's which. He's a head shrinker. You know, he realizes that he's just kind of going through the motions, that he's not really doing his job well. His life's kind of boring, so he wants to go off and find himself. It's one of those movies. The problem is that, I don't know, sort of, it seemed like I was missing that heart in a sort of way. Like, it was enjoyable, but I never really cared super, like a lot about Simon Pegg. It was missing the emotion, I guess you could say. I wasn't really invested in the character. It was still good. It was enjoyable. It just, again, I would say it was missing the heart and that emotion that you get from these movies usually. I didn't feel that at any point. There wasn't that moment of me getting kind of choked up, or that moment of me getting really invested into the character and really caring what the character was going through. I didn't really feel that at any point, but still, it was a decent story, and I would recommend this one to an extent. It's just, I've seen a lot of movies like this in my times, and I've seen much better movies very similar to this before. There are a lot more movies out there about somebody going on this journey to find themselves that are done much better than this movie. But still, it was decent, and I would recommend it. If you're a fan of Simon Pegg, it is something to check out. He's not super funny in it. It's not really a comedy, but there are some amusing moments in it that I really do enjoy. When he freaks out at some of his patients, that's pretty funny. So all in all, it was decent. Not my favorite movie of this kind of genre of finding yourself movies, but still decent, and I would say check it out if you're interested. And then finally, we're going to end here with a pretty big bang. Baby Driver. Wow. Okay, so when this movie came out in theaters, everybody who I knew who saw this movie was saying, you have to see this movie. It's so good. So the hype was getting built up more and more and more. And not just from the internet, because I was hearing a lot of good things from the internet as well, but again, from friends and family and whatnot who had seen this movie, who just told me, you got to check it out. So I was a little nervous going into it, thinking, man, is this going to live up to all the hype it's been getting? And It did. This was great. Not only for the fact that the music is used beautifully in this. I mean, this movie's really all about music, and it's used so well throughout the film. I loved that. So if you're a big fan of music being part of your movies, you're a big fan of music in general, and you just want to see it just put into a movie so beautifully and so well done, Baby Driver's your movie. But also on top of that, the story was great, and it actually kept me guessing as to what was going on, which I love, especially nowadays. I've seen quite a few movies, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, I can pretty much go, okay, so it's probably going to end something like this. And I pretty much know how the movie's going to end to an extent, just because, you know, you've seen one movie, you kind of seen them all, but every now and then something like this comes in and throws a monkey wrench into it, and you're left guessing, and I love that, because at the end of the movie, the characters who I thought were going to be going one way, or the characters who I thought were something else turned out to be something completely different, or another character would pop up who I'd be like, oh, I didn't realize that was going to be that, or it really kept me guessing, and really kept me, every time there was like a twist, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize it was going to go that way. And then from that twist, I thought, okay, now the movie's going to go like this. All right. And then another twist would come in. I'd be like, oh, no, I was completely wrong. So it really just kept me guessing and kept me wondering what was going to happen and what character was going to do what and how these characters were going to turn out and what was going to happen to Baby Driver at the end. Kevin Spacey, I know, controversial, but he was fantastic in this movie. So I loved it. I would highly recommend this movie. If you've heard so many good things about Baby Driver, you've probably heard correctly. It's great. Again, the music was used beautifully in this. I got to get the soundtrack. And also, again, it kind of kept me guessing. I wasn't quite sure where the movie was going as I was watching it, and I love that. A movie that can actually surprise me in the year 2017 is always a good thing. So Baby Driver, check it out. It's amazing. I would highly, highly recommend it. And there you go, guys. That is everything I've recently checked out. And the next time I do reviews for you guys, are you ready for this? Merry Movie Marathon. So many of you guys have been asking me about that. I used to do a Halloween horror-thon where I would watch nothing but Halloween and like Halloween-related titles and horror movies from like the beginning of fall till October 31st, and then I would like review all those movies and whatnot as I was watching them. I did not do that this year, and I'm not sure if did I do it the year prior? Probably not. I don't know. I've been getting really bad at my reviews. And then last year, I know I definitely didn't do a Merry Movie Marathon, but again, you guys are asking me, am I going to bring it back? Well, okay, it's back. I'm going to be watching nothing but holiday related movies from Thanksgiving, which I've already started, obviously, up until January 1st, New Year's Day. So stay tuned for lots of Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's and just like winter and holiday related movies coming your way very, very soon. So it's back. Merry Movie Marathon is coming your way. Stay tuned. But okay, guys, that is it. So as always, thank you all so much for checking this video out. Be sure to hit that like button down below. Also, if you want to see a video every single day, hit that subscribe button and you're going to get one. Also, be sure to check out Patreon where you can help support the show. The simple donation of $1 a month, that's only $12 a year, or more if you like, really does help out, goes a long way, and goes right back into these videos. I got really intense there for a second. I don't know why I did that. Also, check out Spreadshirt, where you can grab yourself one of many different designs of Cinema Sickness t-shirts and hats and buttons and all kinds of cool stuff. Again, proceeds do help the show. And also, as always, most importantly, check out the Cinema Sickness store on Instagram, where you can pick up all kinds of awesome media. Again, proceeds really do help out. It's what keeps this show going. I would really appreciate it. Links to everything can be found down below in the description of this video. And again, that is it. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. So I just finished putting away all of my DVDs and Blu-rays I picked up over Black Friday, and it's pretty crazy. I only filled 3 of these little sections here. That's it. Normally after Black Friday, I would have just a whole row of DVDs, but not this year. But what is crazy is my Blu-ray collection, mostly I think thanks to Dollar General. This whole section here and what you see right here, that's all newly filled space. I got a lot of Blu-rays last week.